Podcast Studios. This is After 9 with Scott and Kat.
Hey now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Solo Scott. Today's the last day of the Solo Scots for a while. Kat is going to be back tomorrow. She is almost wrapped up in Vegas. I believe she gets back later on this morning. So you get me for another episode, and I'm going to warn you up front. It's a really nice day outside. We don't get a whole ton of days where there's a humidex at the end of October. 22 degrees, feeling 26 today. So I'm playing golf. Yeah, not blowing off work. I'm just going to make it a slightly shorter episode of After 9. And that's okay, because there is a few things that I want to get to in this episode, and we will, but I want to get out there, and I'm sure you do too. So if you're listening in the car, put those windows down. Let's enjoy this. We don't get enough days like this at the end of October. We're going to start off with something that just happened yesterday. It's the Premier of Ontario announcing a $200 tax rebate for all Ontario taxpayers. That's right. If you filed a tax return last year, even though you paid a ton of money in taxes, you're going to get $200 back. I think that's great. You know, one of the things that I happen to agree with some governments on is that taxpayers are much better at spending their money than government is. And if we get a little bit of our money back, I think that that's a win. But not everybody seems to like it. And I'm going to try and understand why some people are not a fan of this. So we'll start off with a bit of the Premier's news conference yesterday, where he made it official. In the new year, everybody's getting a check for $200. And if you have kids, you'll get a check for your kids as well. They say a family of 5 will get about $1,000. Great. That's awesome. I'm sure that family of 5 could really use an extra $1,000. Here's the Premier yesterday taking reporters' questions after his announcement.
Morning, Premier Richard Southern, 680 News Radio. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good, Richard. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, sir. Question, will
The look on Doug's face when Richard steps up to the microphone.
this be means tested? And if not, why will millionaires and even billionaires be getting a $200 check here in Ontario?
You know, I knew that was coming, Richard, because they're taxpayers. These are tax dollars going back to the taxpayers. And we're going to give it back to every single person in Ontario. And if they have a child, they're getting an additional $200 because life's too expensive right now. You know, the cost of groceries are going up because of the carbon tax. The gas is going up because of the carbon tax, the 17.5 cents that the Liberals put on there. But guess what? Bonnie Crombie wants to increase that. She wants to increase your taxes, increase the carbon tax. As we say, Bonnie Crombie is the queen of the carbon tax. The difference between our party and the Liberals and NDP, they believe in one thing: tax the taxpayers to death, drive companies out of this province. We've taken a different approach. That's why there's 860,000 people working today that weren't working under the Liberal regime. They lost 300,000 jobs.
Premier, there will be many who will no doubt question the timing of this. It sure looks like you're in campaign mode. As recently as yesterday, you didn't rule out the possibility of an election next year. Are you trying to buy Ontarians' votes with this $200?
Well, Richard, I got to laugh when you ask me these questions. But anyways, we've done this from day one. 6 years ago when we started to put money back into people's pockets. We put $1,600 into every transit rider's pockets. And a family of 2, $3,200. A family of 4, that's $6,400 going back into the taxpayers' money. We got rid of the sticker tax, as I call it, the vehicle license tax. Guess what? The Liberals would bring it back. They'd bring back taxes, they'd increase taxes, take money out of your pockets, they'd drive companies out of this province like they did before, they'd hike energy cost as we reduced it 15 to 17%. That's the difference between ourselves and the Liberals and NDP. It's basically the same party, both of them. Tax, tax, tax.
Okay, all right. I mean, hey, let's leave it right there. As I understand it then, there's some people who think that getting the $200 is good. We're taxpayers, we are overtaxed, and let's be honest, we're not exactly getting good service for the money that we're paying to live in Ontario. Look at the healthcare system. Look at the transit system. Look at all of these other things, our education system. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I don't think there's anybody who wakes up in Ontario and says, you know, they could even charge me more for this because this is just great. It's not really working for anybody. And I think that we're in a situation where the reason it's not working is because of government's involvement. Government is not efficient at running anything. Nothing at all. There's not one area that government is better than a private business at running that sector. Not one. So when the government says, hey, we're going to give you back $200 of your own money. This is very similar to something they did in Alberta, by the way. And in Alberta, they've done it a couple of times. Give taxpayers back their money. I think that makes perfect sense. I'd like $200 back. Sure. And there would be some who would say that because it should be means tested. In fact, that was at Richard's question there. He thinks that it should only go to certain people, not everybody. And the premier corrected him. He said, this is for taxpayers. They're getting some of their money back. I think that that's a great thing. I think we should get our money back, but should it be means tested? If you're very wealthy, should you not get your $200? Maybe there's some people who feel that way. I personally don't see it that way. I think if you pay your taxes, you deserve to get the rebate. And if some are going to get the rebate, everybody should get the rebate. I don't think that that's an unreasonable position, and I know that there's some people who don't really need the money. You know, we've got, we do have some millionaires and billionaires here. Like Galen Weston lives in Ontario. He's going to get a check for $200 because he paid his taxes. If you paid your taxes, you're going to get $200 too. And if you've got kids, you'll get an extra $200 per kid. The list goes on. I think that this is a great plan. I think that people who don't like this plan are really complaining just because they know that it makes the premier look good. He's saying all the right things. Taxpayers deserve to have some of their tax money back. Now, Doug, where I might go a little bit further here is maybe we should get back more. Why is it only $200? I get that that'll cost the coffers a lot of money, but again, it's taxpayers' money. It's not the government's money. So if we can have some of our tax money back, let's do it. I'm hearing in Ottawa things like Pierre Poilievre's announcement that he wants to remove the GST from new homes under $1 million. Let's have a conversation about getting rid of the GST. Let's have a conversation about lowering income taxes. Wouldn't that be great? Let's have a conversation about maybe not taxing food at all. That's a real slippery slope. You know, just today I saw the food professor tweet about that. There shouldn't be any tax on food. Even Food Banks Canada completely agrees there should be no tax on food. If you go to McDonald's and they're charging $8.99 for a quarter pounder combo, the total price should be $8.99. Why does the government get a cut of that? It doesn't make any sense. You used money that they taxed to buy it. Why do they tax it again when you actually complete the purchase? Our taxation system is old. It's antiquated. It involves too many different levels of government. You're paying different things for different reasons. Some people pay more. Some people pay less. Some people who can afford a really good accountant don't pay much at all. So I think that we really should take a look at our tax system. Getting a little bit of it back, fine. If you happen to think that it should be means tested and only go to lower income people, my question to you would be, what's the threshold? What's the limit? How much do you have to make before you're too rich to get your $200? Nobody has ever been able to answer that question for me. You know, it used to be pretty clearly defined what middle class is in Canada. Middle class is supposed to be, it always used to be anyway, those families that were making, just under $100,000 was middle class. If you were making six figures, you were probably upper class. That's the way it was for decades. Now, there's people making six figures that are probably wondering how the hell they're going to pay their mortgage tomorrow or how they're going to put food on the table. Everybody's got a different set of problems and everybody's in a different circumstance. If people like Richard there want to make it means tested, tell me how much. Tell me how much is too rich to get a $200 tax rebate. Is it $100,000 a year? I bet you it won't even be that high. I have a feeling it's going to be more like around 50, 60, maybe $65,000. I don't know how some people are making it on just $65,000 a year in one of the most expensive places on earth to live, Ontario. I just don't know how they do it. Let's play one more question about this.
Hi, it's Chris Rishowie from the Toronto Star.
Hi, Chris.
You've often said that you
680 in the Toronto Star, back to back. Wow.
took over a province that was bankrupt. So wouldn't it be better for you to pay off hundreds of billions in debt as opposed to giving out money?
Well, you know something, we've shown when you lower taxes.
That was actually a very good question. How are we doing paying off the debt? Today, the fall fiscal statement comes out. Last I checked, we had a $10 billion deficit.
You attract companies to a tune of about $60 billion of investment, $45 billion from the EV, another $5 billion from the life sciences, tens of billions of dollars in the tech sector. And last year, folks, Ontario manufacturers created more jobs in Ontario, manufacturing jobs in all 50 U.S. states. And guess what happens when you lower taxes? More revenues come up. There's 860,000 people who are paying taxes that weren't paying taxes 6 years ago. We've increased revenues by $60 billion by reducing taxes. The only government that I can think of in recent memory. And we're going to continue focusing on putting money back into people's pockets because it's tough out there. I literally just got a message from a gentleman in Brampton saying, I'm struggling, I need help with my truck driving license. Well, there you go, my friend. You can put that $200 towards that truck driving license. And if you have kids, they're all getting $200 too, and your spouse will get $200. So that will help someone get a license and start their own driving business.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the $200 for whatever you want. If somebody actually doesn't need it, I wouldn't be too upset if they took the tax break and donated the $200 to a charity of their choice, a registered charity that happens to need help because they're struggling right now too. Donate it to the food bank. There's lots of different places that you could donate that money if you really don't want the $200. But with how overtaxed we are and the abysmal level of service that we get, I don't think it's a bad idea to give taxpayers a rebate. I think that's totally fine, and I don't happen to think it should be means tested. I think if you paid your taxes and we're doing a rebate anyway, anybody who paid should get their rebate. That's just me, but hey, we can talk this out if you want. Feel free to DM me at Scott Fox on air, or you can text 1-833-915-7469. That spells show. We are getting ready to raise taxes again in Toronto. The city is considering a new hotel tax to help offset the cost of hosting the FIFA World Cup. Here's what's going on. The cost of hosting 6 World Cup matches in Toronto, just 6, is coming in at $380 million. $380 million. Now, of that, the taxpayers are paying for this. $201 million is coming from the provincial and federal governments. City of Toronto staff are recommending that the existing tax on overnight hotel stays and short-term rentals be increased from 6% to 8.5%. And not just while the World Cup is on. They want this to happen from June 2025. So this coming June to the end of July 2026, a move that they say is going to bring in $56 million. Well, that money's not just coming out of thin air. That means we're charging people that much money. They did not put this in place for the Taylor Swift stuff, and I think that that's probably for political reasons because they didn't just come up with this. They've obviously been thinking about hiking the hotel tax for quite a while now. You know, it's a little counterintuitive to say that we're open for tourists, we're open for visitors, come to our city. We've got all these world-class attractions and wow, we're going to have the World Cup here. And then jam them with an even higher tax on overnight hotel stays. I don't know why we do that or why we think that would make anybody else want to come here, not when it would be a hell of a lot cheaper to just go to the States or go to Mexico and watch some of these World Cup games there. I know that there's some real hardcore diehard soccer fans that are listening, but I'm going to say what I think a lot of people are thinking. We shouldn't do this. We should pull out of hosting the World Cup. It's going to cost us $380 million. Frankly, I can't figure out why. How is it costing $380 million for 6 soccer games? We're not building some world-class, state-of-the-art stadium for this. We've already got the stadium. It's already built. All they got to do is put some risers in one of the end zones to make it a full bowl and increase the capacity a little bit. Why are we going to play these games at BMO Field, which is small? It's not really a great spot to watch soccer on that scale. This is the FIFA World Cup. This isn't just some second leg MLS soccer kind of shit. This is a big deal. I don't think BMO's cut out for it. Maybe we should be looking at putting it at the new Rogers Stadium, the new one that they're building. They're going to have that thing built by June of next year, and they've got some big concerts coming there next summer, including Coldplay, and the list goes on. Could we convert that into a soccer stadium if we're doing renos on a stadium anyway? Maybe. I have no idea. I do know, though, that this is a lot of money to be spending when we don't really have a lot of money. Jacking up that tourism fee, $56 million coming on the backs of people from here that need to stay in town for the Cup or from tourists that are coming here to watch the game. Why would we do that and jam them with a big, massive bill? It's already confusing enough when someone flies into Toronto for an event. Hey, I'm flying to Toronto because I'm going to watch my favorite hockey team play the Leafs. Okay, well, the first thing we do is jam you with a $60 cab bill to actually get to Toronto because the airport is not in Toronto. It's in Mississauga. It's in the suburbs. Now we're doing this? I don't know that that's going to help. If I'm reading the room right, here's where the mood of the city lies, generally speaking, when it comes to the World Cup. Not now. Sure, it'd be great if you're one of the 50,000 people that happens to get a ticket for the game that you happen to want to see. But the vast majority, this is going to be a major pain in the ass. It's going to be inconvenient. We're spending a ton of money, and I still can't figure out what it is we're spending $380 million on. That's wild to me. The country's not in the mood for this stuff right now. Maybe when Ontario is cooking, when the economy is booming and people have got jobs and we don't have 2 million people using a food bank in 1 month and generally there's just a better atmosphere out there. We'll get back to that time. I know we will. We're resilient. We will get back to good times eventually. Right now, the country's not in the mood for this. Do you really want $201 million of your tax dollars? That's just from the federal and the province going to host 6 soccer games. If it was $380 million to host the entire tournament, maybe I could get behind this, but it's 6 games for $380 million. And where's the other $179 million coming from? I assume Toronto taxpayers are going to have to pay for that, and that's why they want to raise the hotel tax. I think it's a dangerous road to go down. I don't think we should be raising taxes at all under any circumstances. Full stop, the end. Municipal governments are starting to come out right now with their 2025 budget. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't include another property tax increase on top of the property tax increases we had last year and the ones the year before that, and so on and so forth. We got to back off with these taxes. It's too much. It costs too much to live here, and people have had enough. And then when they see government spending money on shit like hosting the World Cup, I think they ask, do these people really care or respect taxpayer money? It doesn't seem like they do because we're not getting a lot in return out of this. I really don't see how we can for 6 games. Anyway, let's move on. This happened yesterday. This is terrible. Yesterday, in a sort of news conference, it was more of like a quick drop-in with the president on the phone to try and get out the vote and encourage people to go out and vote for Kamala Harris. Joe Biden slipped up again. This is a pretty major gaffe. Listen to this.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Getting harder and harder to understand Biden these days. Holy cow. He was responding to the comedian at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden he did a stand-up routine, and he made some terrible, terrible jokes about Puerto Rico. By the way, I love Puerto Rico. I don't think I said this in the pod yesterday. I spent some time in the capital. I was there for just 1 day in Puerto Rico because a cruise ship let us off in Puerto Rico, and then we had to fly back. I had to kill an entire day there. I paid a local $50 US, and I said, take me on a little tour, show me everything that I need to see in Puerto Rico. I ended up giving the guy $100 because it was such a great experience. He drove us around in his own car. He showed us everything. He took photos when we stopped at these beautiful cliffs that are overlooking the ocean. It was amazing. Highly recommend Puerto Rico. We don't really promote it as a tourist destination for some reason. I don't understand why. It's absolutely paradise when you're there. We should probably start doing that. Why are there no all-inclusives in Puerto Rico? I think people would like it if they went. Anyway, back to the point. Yeah, I thought it was horrible what the guy said about Puerto Rico, but I understand that in context, he was doing a stand-up comedy routine, and he's a stand-up comic. It's a little bit different what Biden said yesterday. In defending Puerto Rico, what I just did is how you do that, by the way, Joe, not what you just did. In defending Puerto Rico, the president said that Trump's supporters are garbage. Let me play it one more time so you can hear it clearly.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
You didn't need to do that, Joe. Yeah, I don't know why you said that. I get that you're angry, and I have no doubt that Joe Biden has absolute disdain for people who are voting for Donald Trump. He just seems that way. It's very much a political tactic, if you will. It happens on the left and on the right, more on the left, though, I think, where if you disagree with somebody, you call them names. That was his first instinct, was to call Trump supporters garbage, and it's not playing well in America. Do a quick skim of social media today, and you'll see there's a lot of pissed off Republican voters. Half the country is identifying right now as a Republican. And to call them garbage, yikes, not a good look. Can we stop calling people names? And I truly mean this on both sides. You know, if you're somebody that likes to cruise around the internet looking for people that you think support Justin Trudeau, and you're calling them things like a libtard, it's not a good look. It looks silly. It looks dumb. It's unprofessional. Why? We don't need to do this. You know, we used to be able to just talk. At the beginning of this episode, I told you exactly why I believe that $200 tax rebate is better in our pockets than in the government's pocket. I think it's great that we get it, and I don't care that millionaires and billionaires are going to get $200 as well. I think everybody that paid taxes deserves a little rebate on what they paid, if for no other reason than we're not getting the value that we expect for the amount of money that we're paying to live here. We can have a conversation about that. I'm not going to call you a libtard if you disagree. I hate seeing that word online. Hate it. But it goes both ways. There's a lot of name calling going back and forth. This campaign for president of the United States is ugly. Kamala Harris flat out said that Donald Trump is a Nazi. She compared him to Hitler. That's the kind of stuff that's got to stop. Let's dial it back a little bit and just get back to talking about issues. Let's have a conversation again, because what's happening right now is just deplorable. Oh, deplorable. I said it. Okay, so in the campaign where Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, part of the reason he beat Hillary Clinton is because Hillary Clinton was caught on a hot mic calling Trump supporters a basket of deplorables. Again, people don't like to be called names. Anybody, any political stripe, people don't like to be called names. I don't know why that's the first instinct when we disagree. When did we lose the art of being able to have a conversation and talk through what's going on and how we feel about different issues? And you can try and convince someone that your side is the better side, but if you don't end up convincing them, okay, move on. You don't need to call them a name. And there's too many of them going back and forth. It's happening on both sides. I would really, really like it if we could just get back to a civil conversation. Let's move on here because we're coming up to time, and I got a tea time a little after 1. Last night, World Series. Yankees managed to keep it going. There's going to be a Game 5 tonight. The Yankees were involved in some controversy last night. I'm going to play you the audio because a fan in New York reached right into a glove and took a ball out of it. A ball that was going foul. Fan didn't catch it. The player did. So the fan tried to take it from the player. This is messed up.
Fly to right by Torres. Betts in the corner. Does he have room? Fights with the fan. And they're going to say that it's an out. And fan interference. So an out, one gone in this first. It's the second time that Gleyber Torres has hit a ball that has ended up in fan interference in this series. He had the home run turned into a...
Wow. You know, I thought it was just generally understood. Maybe we need to do an education before you're allowed to go into a ballpark and watch a game. This is how it works. If the ball is catchable, In fact, even if it's not, if you get some superhuman baseball player that wants to run 10 rows up the stairs and he can catch the ball, if he catches it, it's an out. If he leans over the side and catches it, it's an out. If you as a fan catch it, well, that's a different story. In this case, the player caught the ball. The fan wrestled the ball out of his glove. That's messed up. You can't do that. I don't know how much Betts gets paid. I've never looked up his contract. But what if you'd hurt him? You injured a multi-million-dollar asset, you dummy. I'm wondering if this is only a New York thing. I can't think of any other ballparks where this would happen, and it just seems to fit the profile of Yankees fans, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't think of a... If you had told me that this happened and asked me to guess what stadium, I probably would have guessed Yankee Stadium. Wild stuff. Anyway, it was an out, and that guy got kicked out of the game after he paid, at least, nearest I can tell, $1,500 US for the ticket. And he gets kicked out early in the game because he wrestled with a player for the ball. Unbelievable. Other audio I want to play for you is related to what I'm doing in just a few hours. For the second time in a few months, police in British Columbia got called out to a golf course because of players fighting on the golf course. Listen to this.
Oh my God! What is wrong with you?
Hey, you better
call the cops.
Back away. Call the RCMP right now. Put the club down. RCMP right now.
We can de-escalate this, hey?
Good. De-escalation, I think, is appropriate. Probably should have happened a few seconds sooner. Fight breaks out. One player smashed his driver over the other player's head. This is the kind of shit going on golf courses right now. Everybody is too riled up. Everybody just calm down. Take your $200 and go to the convenience store and get yourself a couple of beers or coolers. Whatever you have to do to wind down, but we are all way too wound up. Did you hear the sound that made when that club hit the guy over the head? Listen to this again.
Oh my God! What is wrong with you?
That was the club hitting his skull. He could have killed him. Unbelievable. Absolutely crazy. Thank you for listening to this episode of After 9. I hope you have yourselves a fantastic day. Tomorrow, Kat is back. We'll be talking Halloween and a whole bunch more. We'll also find out what's going on in Vegas because Kat spent a week there. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
A new lawsuit accuses Subway of grossly misleading customers by advertising sandwiches with 3 times more meat than it delivers. CEO of Subway was like, "Trust me, we're doing you a favor."
Health officials in Wisconsin have issued a warning that pizza purchased at Famous Yeti's Pizza may have been contaminated with THC, though if you're headed to Famous Yeti's Pizza, you're probably already contaminated with THC.
New York State just banned the sale of caffeine-infused cannabis. Now, if you want drugs in your caffeine, you got to do it the old way, winking at the Dunkin' Donuts cashier.